It was a day years in the making, February 26, 2016, a day many hoped would happen, and some even questioned if they could pull it off. It was the first ever Baton Rouge Crime Stoppers banquet. But if you think these tables were fixed on their own, well, let me tell you what went into the week leading up to this inaugural fundraiser.
This week was very interesting.
Heidi Dunham is the Crime Stoppers assistant coordinator.
My two co-workers were very stressed this week.
Lieutenant Don Stone is the coordinator. But this week, their roles may have been reversed because Lieutenant Stone was in love with just one word.
Very stressful towards the end.
Have you picked up on it yet?
It was very stressful for all of us that are involved in putting this together.
Okay, how about now?
It was stressful.
Sid Newman is the Crime Stoppers executive director.
We ended up actually working on the floor of the office because we had all these papers out and checking charts, seating arrangements, and who's coming, who's not coming, last minute changes.
I took control and I just did it.
And it was Heidi who was left to coordinate and keep everyone's hair from falling out. That probably explains why Lieutenant Stone, he doesn't have any to begin with.
Don was so stressed that I told him, don't come to work tomorrow, take some time off. I have this, don't worry about it.
What about Sid?
I told Sid the same thing. I have this, don't worry about it. You might need to take some time off, go have a drink, it's gonna be fine.
Well, there wasn't a whole lot of funniness in it. There was a lot of stress. I gotta tell you right now, if you find stress funny, then you'll be laughing at the way this thing went down, because we were getting calls for people who wanted to purchase tables, and we would sell the tables, and then we would be like, okay, where are we going to put that table now?
Before we tell you about them selling tables, well, that simply did not exist. Let's rewind the clock to 1976.
It was the murder of a gas station attendant, a young fellow by the name of Michael Carmen. He was killed in an armed robbery.
That's when Crime Stoppers first started in Albuquerque, New Mexico. 2 weeks after a murder there, detectives had no leads, so they went to their local TV station and offered $1,000 to anyone giving them information leading to the arrest of the killers. Within 72 hours, someone called with information. And that's how Crime Stoppers formed, giving the community an avenue to hand over information about a crime they know about or witnessed, all while remaining anonymous and earning cash rewards.
Crime Stoppers is an intelligent gathering organization that takes information from the public in reference to crime, turns it over to law enforcement so law enforcement can investigate it and solve crimes and get wanted felons off the street.
6 years later, 1982, Sid Newman started Crime Stoppers in Baton Rouge, servicing an 8-parish area. In their 34 years, they have helped solve more than 12,000 crimes and paid out over $1.8 million in cash rewards. And today is overwhelming for the man who has wanted this since the very beginning.
This is the first time we've ever put on a banquet. We've been talking about it for years, and I started Crime Stoppers in 1982, so an awful long time.
6 months plus of work went into putting this thing together. A lot of after-hours work, a lot of meetings, a lot of sitting on the floor and laying out the programs and making sure the seating chart is right.
Let's get back to that seating chart. They needed one because, well, they didn't expect the crowd that showed up.
We're expecting, is the fire marshal here going to watch this? We're expecting 500 plus.
We thought we'd honor a few people.
It's our first one. Your first one, you usually think we'll get by, we'll sell. We might have 150, 250 people here.
Instead, when the clock struck 11 a.m., the ballroom at the Renaissance started filling up. Within just half an hour, all 50 tables were filled. In fact, they had to even add in a few more. With the room filled past maximum capacity, just about everyone in attendance was speechless.
Wow. You know, I believe the initial goal was to get 200 people here, and I think now we ended up with over 500 people here supporting this event, and it's just amazing. It's awesome.
I was overwhelmed. For the first year to hold an event like this and to see a packed house, I don't think they could put anybody else in there.
My God, I was shocked. This is a beautiful venue, packed house, we've already outgrown this.
I was very excited to see this many people, especially to know that many people cared about our law enforcement.
Overwhelming the support that we get
from this community.
What an incredible event, you know, to see the room packed house.
And with this type of crowd, the message will resonate all over these parishes, including East Baton Rouge, to say we are united.
This is the first time we've ever done this, and this place is going to be packed. I mean, absolutely packed with law enforcement, and people just wanted to be a part of this. So the fact that they asked me to be a part of it, it's either, I'm pretty sure everybody they asked said no, so it came down to me. But, you know, here I am, and we'll see if I can't screw it up.
Matt Williams has been a vital part of Crime Stoppers, having worked with them a decade plus, doing a weekly story on a case asking for the public's help and for them to call that magic number, 344-STOP.
We're the medium. We're the absolute medium. I mean, say what you want about social media, but there's still a great need for traditional media, the ability to get the word out to the masses.
It's why Crime Stoppers asked him to MC their inaugural event.
Every day I understand my responsibility with this position. It's a privilege for me to go in there and work with the people who are truly the backbone of Crime Stoppers.
Without a hitch, the inaugural Crime Stoppers banquet was off to an amazing start. Well, yeah, there was one hiccup.
Anybody want to guess what the original entree for today was? New York strip.
This is our first banquet, and we made a big mistake. We hadn't, and it wasn't just us. I mean, there was a whole bunch of people involved in the selection process, and nobody picked up on it.
Anybody know what season we're in?
So we had to laugh because we planned a fabulous menu, something that when people came into our luncheon today, that they would come back saying, we have got to come back next year. So we had these beautiful New York strip plate lunch planned. And then we realized that today is Friday during Lent. And thank goodness that is not an error that we realized just this morning.
So, Friday in Lent, and everybody's excited about New York strip steak. Anybody? No? Yeah. I don't care how good the steak is, God's still gonna flatten your tire when you walk out there. So the menu got changed a little bit, and we're gonna have some I think we have some fish up there for you. And it's going to be great.
Crime Stoppers sold 50-plus tables to several area organizations, their sponsors, and random people from the community, with tables selling anywhere between $1,250 up to $10,000. And all the money raised went directly to the Greater Baton Rouge Crime Stoppers.
This is a fundraiser. Crime Stoppers is a 501c3, a nonprofit organization. We need these kind of fundraisers so we can pay those individuals those cash rewards.
Along with WAFB TV.
It is 7:15. Glad to have you with us this morning, Lieutenant Don Stone.
Good morning.
From Crime Stoppers. It's time for our Crime Stoppers Weekly. And
the radio station, Talk 107.3, is also a Crime Stoppers sponsor, with Lieutenant Don Stone featured every Tuesday morning.
Yes, it is. Wanted out of Ascension Parish. Double homicide that occurred back in January of 2015.
Hoping to catch a bad guy or two, and then again Thursdays at 11 a.m. with Clarence Buggs. Today, however,
it is going to be a fascinating event.
Buggs brought the weekly broadcast to the banquet itself.
When we started putting this thing together 6 months ago, we were thinking, it's our first one, let's just break even, let's get 100, 150 people show up, and we'll be happy with it.
Right.
Look around this room.
This place is
500
packed.
plus.
Wall to
500
wall.
plus. Unbelievable.
Wow.
As badge after badge enjoyed their meals, the program resumed.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you that we can gather here today to celebrate the successes of our law enforcement officers and the involvement of the community through the Crime Stoppers program.
And Mayor President Kip Holden set the day apart.
It's also my pleasure to issue this proclamation proclaiming February 26th as Crime Stoppers Day in celebration of its first annual Officer Appreciation Banquet.
The purpose of the banquet was to recognize law enforcement from the 8-parish area with awards. They started with the Top Law Enforcement Officer Award.
Top law enforcement officer is, from the Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Jeff Wiley.
It's very flattering. I mean, when the title says top cop, now we know that's not entirely true, and frankly, when people get awards, sometimes they say I don't really deserve it, and I don't really deserve it. I accept this for all of my department and all of those real policemen, we call them out there, those men and women, troopers and deputies and city police officers.
In fact, Sheriff Jeff Wiley was not even in town and had even considered skipping the event. Instead, he flew back home just to make the banquet.
Old Pawpaw was in Disney World with two of my five grandchildren, and I'm flying back actually. I'm going to squeeze one more day at Magic Kingdom tomorrow.
2 partnership awards followed for 2 women who have been instrumental in getting information to Crime Stoppers and taking tips and getting them to detectives. From the Livingston Parish Sheriff's Office,
Deputy Melissa Barrett.
and in Ascension Parish,
Deputy Allison B. Hudson.
I was excited because that lets me know that my hard work is paying off. And it's not just me. I accepted this award on behalf of 350 employees at the Sheriff's Office because I can't do it by myself.
The Award of Excellence goes to an officer or group who exemplified great professionalism, dedication, and their ability as an investigator. This year, there were 3. 1 to a Baton Rouge police officer.
Detective Derek Banquet.
Another to a Livingston Parish Sheriff's Deputy.
Sergeant Nick Cicero.
And the 3rd to an entire group who is always available to check on Crime Stoppers tips in East Baton Rouge Parish, regardless what agency the fugitive is wanted from.
This warrant division chasing people all over, down the flights of stairs, into AC units, getting kicked in the face. There you go. Congratulations.
The Ken Uffman Award is named after one of the founding fathers of the Baton Rouge Crime Stoppers. It recognizes an individual who went the extra step to promote the program, someone who has dedicated countless hours to the mission of Crime Stoppers and really making sure the community is a better place.
This year's recipient exemplifies every one of those. It's Carl Morrow.
Perhaps the most touching of all awards was one named after a U.S. Marshal deputy killed in the line of duty, the Josie Wells Award.
We'd like to recognize those individuals, U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force, that put their lives on the line each and every day, making our community just that much safer of a place to live. Kevin Harrison, U.S. Marshal for the Middle District of Louisiana, will receive the Josie Wells Award on behalf of the entire U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force.
Marshal Kevin Harrison received a standing ovation. What you cannot visually see here, though, are the emotions in the room, the chills that overcome the people as Marshal Harrison spoke, and how they held back that drop of tear.
On March the 10th, while executing a state arrest warrant on behalf of the Point Coupee Parish Sheriff's Office, Deputy Josie Wells was killed in the line of duty. Deputy Wells was in Baton Rouge as part of a nationwide initiative to apprehend the most violent fugitive offenders. He was 27 years old, married, an expectant father, a beloved son, and a brother. He was on loan to my office to assist in the arrest of violent fugitives in and around the Baton Rouge area. I met with him on Monday, March the 9th, 2015, during the briefing of the individuals who we were going to go out and apprehend. Once he informed me he was a native of Mississippi, I began the good-natured ribbing that occurs between people from Mississippi and Louisiana. I asked him, I said, "What's your name?" And when he said Josie Wells, I said, "You got to be shitting me." He said, "No, that's my real name." I said, "Well, at least your family had a sense of humor." And he said, "Well, they would because they're all police officers." I knew I loved them then. So Josie, who had this $1 million smile, I had no idea that was going to be my last conversation with him. So it's hard because, you know, it's like when they send a kid from next door to come over and play at your house. You want to take care of them, but you never know what's going to happen. And the worst thing that could have possibly happened to us. We didn't take good care of the neighbor's kid, and we lost him. A 1,000,000-watt smile was gone in a blink of an eye. The next few hours and days were filled with notifications, investigations, and consolations. There was obvious devastation on the faces of all those involved. It's hard for the public to imagine cops as victims until they see the hurt in their eyes. Much has been made about the disconnection recently between the police and the community they serve, but if ever there was a reason to come together, this was it. A young black law enforcement officer with the brightest of futures had been cut down in the service of his country. I'm only indicating the skin color as a way of illustrating the total disregard for any color, except the color blue, by a small segment of our society that believes killing a law enforcement officer is acceptable. Shortly after Deputy Wells' death, I was sent an electronic message that was being shared in the blogosphere, stating some sense of admiration for the person who killed Deputy Wells, which I can only paraphrase because the spelling was on the level of like a second grader. The shooter, because he went out, they were admiring this guy, the shooter, saying that he went out gangster style. And at least he took one of them with him. We as a society of laws and morals cannot exist in an us versus them community. Not every person in the community is a law enforcement officer, but every law enforcement officer is part of the community. Are there bad cops in law enforcement? Sure there are, as there are in a lot of segments of society. But there are more Josie Wells than there will ever be gangster law enforcement cops. I've sat in many courtrooms and during the jury selection process watched how jurors are dismissed because of their association with law enforcement. Guilt by association. You can't possibly be impartial if your second cousin is a police officer, but if he's a convicted felon, there might be some reason for a non-prejudicial selection. How is it that the most integrated, paid organization in our society is the most scrutinized? The rhetoric doesn't match the results. How many times can some in the media and the voices of the dissension get it wrong before we stand up and say your attempts to turn us against each other will not work? On March the 17th, 2015, we in the law enforcement community say goodbye to our brother in a style befitting a hero. It was his final interment in a graveyard in a gully near his childhood home. There were hundreds of people who lined the route, hand over heart, as the procession passed, including a class of about 5-year-olds who obviously had the good fortune to be under the tutelage of a teacher who knew the value of a life lesson. Policemen are your friends. They have a dangerous job, and they will lay down their lives for you. On March 18th, a fundraiser, thank you WAFB, was conducted in Baton Rouge to benefit Deputy Wells' family, and standing there holding the collection buckets were law enforcement officers from the Baton Rouge area. More importantly, the task force officers who were with Deputy Wells when he was killed was there. They needed to be there to remind them, as every car pulled up to donate, from the Filipino family, they pulled over so they could search in every crack and crevice to find the change in the cushions of the car seats, to the young boy in his school uniform who walked up with $1 in his hand, who just wanted to shake their hands, to the soccer mom who pulled up in an SUV and put down her back window so the child in the back seat could reach out and put something into the buckets. They needed to be there for that, and took the money that this community gave to support Josie's family. The goodness of this community and what they do and what they said had meaning to those guys that were standing out there that day. They needed to be reassured how much they mean to this community and how much this community means to them. Lastly, to all my brothers and sisters in the law enforcement community who were there for us over that week, on behalf of the United States Marshal Service, we thank you. We can never repay you for how much you've done for all of us. To the community, the people that helped put this on today, in and around the Baton Rouge area, we know how to repay you. And that's to go out and keep doing the job that you pay us to do. Guys, please stand up. My task force guys back there. And just so the people here in the community know it, law enforcement officers, we are Josie Wells. And the gangsters know it. Thank you very much.
It meant a lot. Obviously, anytime you could be recognized as a recipient on behalf of an officer that was killed in the line of duty, obviously takes on a significant meaning as it relates to how much that person meant to his organization, how much he meant to the community, and how much he meant to all his brothers and sisters in the law enforcement community.
What do you say to Crime Stoppers?
The biggest thing I'd want to say is thank you so much for initiating this award in Josie Wells' name.
And one final award.
Today, the Crime Stoppers Board of Directors would like to recognize the voice and face of Crime Stoppers, Mr. Matt Williams of WAFB TV.
I understand what that award means, and I understand who it's really for. It represents WAFB's commitment to Crime Stoppers. They made that commitment a long time ago, going on close to a dozen years.
With that, 2 hours had quickly passed.
This is the first time we've done this. This will not be the last. Thank you guys so much. It is 1 o'clock. Get out of here.
The first Greater Baton Rouge Crime Stoppers banquet was finally over and deemed a huge success.
First in roughly 30 years, so I think it says, you know, we all communicate in our own special ways, but this shows, in effect, everybody else, what kind of unity that we have put together to make sure people can rest at home, at work, or at play.
The mayor says not only does this banquet send a clear message that law enforcement all works together regardless the color or shape of their badges, but that Crime Stoppers is a tool that is a must to put a dent in crime.
For us in law enforcement to make the citizens safe and to do our job, the job that they want us to do and the job that we want to do, we have to have community involvement. We have to have this dialogue in a meaningful way and on a daily basis.
This is an ability for us and the community to give those tips to us without fear of prosecution or fear of retribution from the criminals. So by having Crime Stoppers is just, it's unbelievable, and it's an asset that I think is underused by the community, but it looks like it's picking up.
Crime Stoppers goes further than serving just Baton Rouge. It covers an 8-parish area. One of those is Ascension Parish.
Our partnership with Crime Stoppers is a very critical piece. It's almost like, you know, when we have that 1, 2, 3 timeline, it's their number, you know, 1 on the list when we're trying to get something solved. We know that if we send something to Crime Stoppers, it's going to get solved.
My department is a mid-sized department, several hundred, but there's 125,000 people in Ascension Parish. That's eyes and ears that we don't have. And that is the real human asset that assists us.
Crime Stoppers has been instrumental in Ascension Parish. In fact, since 2013, the partnership has helped solve 60 felony crimes and recover more than $15,000 in stolen property and illegal drugs.
We're coming to grips with it that people need an avenue to do confidential reporting. All right, there's a whole lot less inclined people out there to eyewitnesses and people to provide information publicly. So this confidential line, the Crime Stoppers line, has been very effective for us.
And in Livingston Parish, since 2013, Crime Stoppers has helped solve 85 felony crimes and recovered more than $60,000 worth of property and drugs.
With teaming up with Crime Stoppers and putting things like our billboards up and actually getting the information out to our community, it's been just a huge asset to us, and we've been able to solve many crimes because of Crime Stoppers.
And the Greater Baton Rouge Crime Stoppers does not stop with just the 8-parish area. They step up when needed anywhere, including for the entire state of Louisiana, and their tips even go nationwide.
In law enforcement, it's about tools in your toolbox, and we want every tool that we can get our hands on to do our job more effectively, to be more efficient, to be more successful, and we can reach out to Crime Stoppers and use that as a tool to reach the community. Thousands of witnesses, thousands of potential people that saw something, some little nugget of information that may be the nugget that we're looking for that can bring this case to completion. It's an incredibly powerful tool, and we're thankful to have it.
Leads that are developed here, we share as a federal agency, we share with other federal agencies throughout the country and state and local agencies throughout the country that information, because a lot of times that person leaves the community and they head out of state, and we effect arrest based on some of the leads that are developed through Crime Stoppers that go nationwide.
And believe it or not, that magic number, 344-STOP, it's handled by just 2 people. Lieutenant Don Stone.
Lieutenant Stone has a investigative background, and he knows how a case should flow. And when there's a lag or if there is a problem.
And Heidi Dunham.
Heidi is very unique. Probably I would say she could be the backbone of the whole thing, because she probably takes more tips today than anybody else.
With their executive director, Sid Newman.
I'm very fortunate. I'm very fortunate to have 2 people that are very concerned about the safety and welfare of the people in the community. They are very, very concerned.
Lieutenant Don Stone and Heidi Dunham are just 2 assets we have with the Baton Rouge Police Department. They just go above and beyond. They spend hours and hours of not only their working time, but their off time answering phone calls, moving tips to different agencies that they need to go to. It may be in the middle of the night, it may be on a Sunday afternoon, and they're always answering their phones, they're always reading their emails. That level of determination is just unprecedented, and I am so fortunate to have them on my department.
Now that the first ever banquet is over, well, time to start planning for next year.
It's been interesting, but I only think we just scratched the surface.
And forget it's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's 1 o'clock here.
At 1 o'clock today, we're all going to lay down on the floor and take a nap and be glad it's over with.
We're done. It's time to drink.
But on a serious note, the people responsible for spending months turning their idea into a truly successful banquet can now look back and say,
it feels great.
It's a wonderful feeling to be finished with it. It was stressful putting it together, but it's over with. We accomplished it. We were able to seat everybody. We were able to recognize those that needed to be recognized. And it's just a great feeling. There's a lot of weight off my shoulders knowing that we were able to put it together as successful as we did.
Relief, and I'm just happy. I'm happy that we could honor Crime Stoppers and law enforcement and show our appreciation.
Was it everything you wanted?
Was it everything and more.
If you want a seat at next year's banquet, my suggestion, buy a table now.
It's turned into one of the greatest successes of Crime Stoppers fundraisers that our program has seen in 34 years.
What's great is after all of these years, the burning fire is still there. It was smoldering, but events like today says, man, we're alive, we're well, and we want to help.